Well, I thought I'd better say something about Greenland. Um, Particularly in the run up to the Saturn Neptune conjunction, which is the big thing that's upon us. Their first exact conjunction, which will be probably around the 20th of February. They almost conjoined last year, as good as, and it's actually happening now. And Donald Trump is putting up the pressure on Greenland. So I've been putting various charts together to see what comes out the other end. It's not my job as an astrologer to judge whether it's good or bad that he wants Greenland. It's more to describe what's going on around it and see what astrology can tell us. I think he'll get it. There's no doubt about that, and it doesn't affect me personally. It's part of Danish territory. It's between Denmark and America. But I've talked before about the meaning, one of the central meanings geopolitically of the Saturn Neptune conjunction is the end of the post World War order, where we imagined that the world could be governed by international law. We set up the United Nations. International law is not enforceable. It was always a fantasy, a nice fantasy. You can understand people's desire for it, but it was always a fantasy because it's unenforceable. The chart for the United Nations has got a Venus-Neptune conjunction in Libra. So there's the longing, the idealism for partnership, but it's ungrounded. It's conjunct Neptune, and also the sun. The sun is in the seventh house, and that shows again its desire for partnership. That is quite grounded. I think it's in Capricorn, from what I remember. No, it can't be in Capricorn. But anyway, whatever it's in, it's not really working. America is doing what it wants. And the reason Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries is the end of the post-World War order is because it's the sign of Aries, which is about me and what I want. It's about countries taking care of themselves. We're moving from Saturn-Neptune in Pisces, which is about globalization. Yeah, it's where there's no borders, no boundaries. Yeah, and that went to a certain, and again, you can see the advantages of that. You can see the idealism in that, but you can also see the, countries like America go, hang on, we've got a huge trade imbalance, yeah, with China because of these lack of boundaries. Yeah, we don't want a huge trade imbalance. It'll eventually bankrupt us. And countries going, yes, we've got a history of welcoming immigration. We love immigrants. Yeah, they enrich our country. A lot of them need help. We love to give other people help. But up to a point, we've also got to take care of ourselves. So that's what's coming in. It's like, hang on, we've got to take care of ourselves now. That's the sign of Aries, Saturn setting boundaries around that. And that keys into that with Trump wanting Greenland. He says it's for reasons of security, national security. And, well, do you believe him or don't you? Of course there's other motives there. Of course they will extract the minerals and they will actually create wealth there as well. God knows what will happen to the indigenous people. But it is in an area that is opening up. Now, Russia and China have always ignored. I don't think they've ever taken particularly seriously this idea of international law. It's like they'll do what they want. They grab Tibet, China grab Tibet, it'll take Taiwan. Russia's trying to take bits of Eastern Europe. I talked about this in my last video. They don't function according to international law. In fact, they laugh at us. The idea is if we're nice to other people, they'll be nice back. Venus conjunct Neptune in Libra. Well, they're going to carry on and take advantage of our naivety. Donald Trump isn't like that. It's realpolitik. And so Greenland is part of the realpolitik thing. Russia and China have always done the realpolitik. The West, or at least America is beginning to. This is this huge event that really breaks up the old international order, this seizing of Greenland, which he hasn't done yet, but he's putting Europe under enormous pressure to do so. Now, the Treaty of Westphalia, if you ever listen to Jacob Rees-Mogg on YouTube, he does all these short videos and he explains what's going on and he gives historical context. He'll explain to you all about politics, all about the law, all about history, all about religion. If you let him, he'll tell you all about the rosary. He used to be a cabinet minister, and he wants to be back in politics. But he does explain things well. I don't always agree with him, but he talks about the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648. That was when Europe was just coming out of the 30 Years' War in mainland Europe. I won't pretend to understand what it was about, but it was tremendously complex, tremendously destructive. And the Treaty of Westphalia basically gave countries their sovereignty, said that one European country won't invade another. Yeah, of course, it was broken numerous times since then, but that was what Trump in a way is breaking, because America's roots go back to Europe. The Declaration of Independence goes back to the liberalism of Europe, which grew as Christianity decayed. Liberalism, if you like, is the leftovers of a decaying Christianity. It can't hold forever because it's got no central mythology behind it. It's ideas, good ideas, but you need a mythology to hold. So liberalism has gone to extremes. That's what's also collapsing at the moment. So anyway, the Treaty of Westphalia, now what that has got, that was signed under a Saturn-Neptune opposition. In fact, it was much more than that. Saturn was conjunct Pluto and the North Node in Gemini opposite Uranus and Neptune in Sagittarius. It was tremendously formative for Europe. Even though, as I say, I don't know much about the actual history. I won't ever pretend to be scholarly. I'm not like that. But you do need to know a certain amount to give yourself context. So there's the resonance with now Saturn-Neptune opposition when that treaty was set up. Saturn-Neptune conjunction now. Now the thing is, Saturn was in Gemini at 15 degrees, conjunct the North Node at 17 degrees Gemini. Guess who's got Uranus at 17 degrees Gemini? The great disruptor, Donald Trump. He's got Sun, Uranus, North Node conjunct in Gemini. So he's driving a coach and horses through the Treaty of Westphalia in his attempt to seize Greenland. That's the significance of it. It's hugely significant. And if you look at Greenland itself, well, the latest chart for it, it was formally given self-rule on the 21st of July 2009, even though it's still a protectorate. That's the most recent chart of its gradual move towards independence from Denmark. And on that day, the sun was at 29 degrees, I think 51 minutes of Gemini. Neptune is almost exactly square that at the moment. Neptune and Saturn are about to make their final square to the Greenland sun. And, well, it's mutable. It's mutable. Greenland has got sun in Gemini, moon in Gemini, Sagittarius rising. It's all mutable. It's when you're all mutable, it's you're not beginning something. You're having to yield. I mean, the EU has got mutable angles. They're right at the end of the mutable signs, and Saturn Neptune's all over them at the moment. Again, the EU is yielding. Trump is walking all over Europe. Europe cannot stand up for itself. It's become weak. Yeah, I mean, starting an international organization treaty like the EU under the signs of the end of the mutables is not a good chart for longevity. It will eventually yield. It is falling apart. It's showing its power to be nothing. Yeah, it can make statements, it can wring its hands, but it can do nothing. Tibet has that sort of chart. It's double Pisces, something like that. It just had to give way to China. And it's the same with Greenland. It will have to give way to this new international order in which it comes under America's wing. So there's a lot of astrology around this. And maybe the main reason I want to talk about it is because, if I call the video Greenland, it'll get looked at on TikTok, won't it? But it is maybe the major indicator of this Saturn-Neptune conjunction. It's the most clear and blatant breaking up of the old order, the breaking up of NATO, the breaking up of the UN Charter. It doesn't mean they're all over. It's not disaster. Of course, Europe will continue to have strong links with America because America's our protector. Of course, all that will continue. But we will yield. And America will get Greenland. And, Russia and China will get up to all sorts in that part of the world. Of course they will. It's naive to think that they won't. Look at what China did. It was the single greatest voluntary transfer of property in history when China, for years, hacked the internet of many US corporations and stole all their technology. Russia hacks as well. They will do everything. And of course, I'm sure America does the same in reverse. We don't hear about that. It's only nasty China and Russia that hack us. Of course we don't hack them. Of course we do. We just don't talk about it. We're just as bad. The Treaty of Westphalia, sovereignty, forget it. Forget it. It's never been the case anyway between those big three. So from that point of view, from the point of view of Russia and China and the great game, America needs to take Greenland. Because it's within its hemisphere. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it needs to do it, and it will do it. And that's just how it is.